So I've got some sage here, and then I've got some onions and these are my spring onions. These are some red spring onions, but they didn't really go for it as much. They've died back, so I'm going to grow them on next year's bulbs. I've got some Welsh onions here, and these are a perennial spring onion, like chives, I suppose, you know, but you cut them like spring onions and use them like spring onions, and they're evergreen. So you just pick that and eat it. Tastes like spring onion. There's some mild oniony flavour. I've got some Swiss chard here, bright lights of different varieties, colours, and then some Chioggia beetroot that followed red onions, and then some Chantenays that followed my red onions as well. So, you know, if we have a look in here, they're doing quite well, as you can see. Yeah, they're quite a good size carrot. They were sown in June, and it's currently September. And then here we've got some flat leaf parsley that's gone in 2 weeks ago, with sage cutting off that main sage back there. But when these finish, these parsley finish, the sage will take over. Then I've got some spinach here, and it's quite interesting to see that these spinach are the same age. Yet this one is doing leaves. It's nearly ready for its first picking, and these just haven't gone for it at all. Then we come around the corner here, and we've got 3 empty buckets with the new compost that I've bought. It's very dusty, but it rehydrates quite fast. But these are potatoes for Christmas, and if you know, they're under there, they're growing away. There are more plants in there. They've only just gone in 2-3 weeks ago, so that's quite a fast plant to emerge. And there's some more flat leaf parsley here in this down the middle of the bucket, but it's getting pushed away by the beetroot, which is Cylindra. Quite a long root variety. They're going to take a while to get to maturity. Then we've got some Market More cucumbers on these trellises here. They've been cropping reasonably well. As you can see, there's a cucumber here, not quite ready. That's probably have 5 or 6 off there. And then we've got turnips, which followed broad beans, and then also some more beetroot here, which is a mix of Cylindra and Chioggia, that also followed the broad beans. Then we've got this trough down here. This is where my cherry tomatoes were last week, but they've come out, and my red onions will be going in next month in this bed. Then here got salsify. Now these are similar to parsnips, I've heard, but they grow, well, they look a bit like grass in a bucket like this, so it's difficult to know what is grass and what is salsify. But the only problem is my goats have been nibbling the tops off where they can reach, so I don't know what how much of a yield we'll have, because I've been assisted on the maintenance of these. But as you can see here, they're really, quite lush growth compared to here that's just stubble. So I've got a bit of mesh to protect them from the goat attacks. And I've got some head lettuce here. This was very late in the season of I think it was an end of July sowing, possibly start of August, something like that. We've got some Swiss chard, a bit younger than the other stuff, still quite flexible in the ground, it's not so anchored in. Then I've got hardneck garlic here. So as you can see, some of them are starting to emerge. Little cloves in there, doing quite well. And an empty bucket that I haven't planted up yet. There's some carrot, but my sister sowed these, sorry, and they've gone really close. So it's just a case of thinning out the biggest. and hoping for the rest to grow, but I might just pull them all out, eat them all as little tiny carrots, and then start again with something else as a autumn sowing. And here we've got another empty bucket. Here we have spring cabbage that followed peas in the ones with the mesh, and potatoes were in the ones without the mesh. Now this pea plant has also been, well, the peas in here were followed by a tomato cutting that I took from the main tunnel. So yeah, these are looking quite well, 2 of these peas. So the idea of these peas is I'm going to dry the peas out and eat the dried peas, rehydrate the dried peas and eat them like that. So it's one way of storing them. And then here we've got some Cobra French beans. These will be left to dry out for seed now, most of them. As you can see here, we've got one here that's drying out quite nicely. Then we have spring onions here. So there's Aishikira here, and White Lisbon in the front. So the White Lisbon bulb up a bit more than the Aishikira, but I prefer the White Lisbon taste. And then we have spring cabbage in there, Spanish black radish coming along in there nicely. Then there's 2 buckets of beetroot, but I'm using them for the leaves more than the roots. Then I've got some strawberries coming along in these 3 buckets. Then there's some mint that's dying back now for the winter, and some apple mint that's had the same plans, to be honest. Then we come back to here, and this is some more mint I've let flower for the bees. Some chives that I sowed this year, parsley, flat leaf. And this is some chocolate mint that I've taken cuttings of. And like this was this year's cutting, and it's filled these pots. And then in the terraced raised bed behind, you can see I've got some pak choi there, and this little section is empty for a bit. And then there's some Welsh onions here again, but there's a mole coming up here, so you need to sort him out. And then there's potatoes here. They haven't quite popped up yet, but I've found a little mole hole, so if I leave that open it might stop him coming down there. And I've done a little herb patch here, but as you can see the mole has struck again. And then if we go up here, these are my onions for overwintering in this little cloche. So these ones here are radar. As you can see, there's get that in shot. So this is that like compost that's quite dry, and once it gets a bit of moisture, it looks quite nice. But it just takes a while to get moisture back into it. And if we go down the end of this, you can see. So the ones at the far end were radar, and then these are Aishikira, Century Yellow, sorry. Century Yellow. And they'll overwinter. They're a Japanese variety, and they will overwinter. And then in the middle I got Wudan beetroot, if you can see that. Oh, I get the phone in it. Oh, there you go. But they'll overwinter in there as well, quite happy. And that's the overview of the bucket garden. Quite a nice space. Hoping to expand it into that bit of rubbish there. Sort that out next this season now, end of the season.